So, what the heck is an ILIT? And should you have one as part of your estate plan? As you probably know from experience, attorneys are pretty good at having acronyms. We have UGMAs and we have UTMAs and we have URLs. And then in the financial services, you've got your IRAs and your 401ks and your Roth IRAs. A lot of acronyms out there. Well, today's acronym is ILIT, I-L-I-T, and that's an acronym that stands for an Irrevocable Life Insurance Trust. So, what is it? Well, it is a living trust, meaning what? It's something that you do create during your lifetime. And the only asset that's going to be in your ILIT is going to be life insurance. Hence, it is a trust for life insurance policies. It is not the main trust that you would have as part of your estate plan, but it would be a supplement to what might otherwise be your main living trust, which is the core part of your estate plan. And it's also irrevocable. And what does that mean? Review. It cannot be changed once you create it. Secondly, you cannot be the trustee of it, nor can you be the beneficiary of it. So there's a number of restrictions on this ILIT. It's irrevocable, you cannot be in charge of it, and it cannot be for benefit. So what's it used for? Well, primarily an ILIT is used whenever you want to remove life insurance from your estate. And there's really a couple times that people look at wanting to remove life insurance from their estates. One might be that you don't want life insurance to be available to your creditors. If you have a normal life insurance policy that's going to get paid to your estate when you die, it might be subject to claims of your creditors. So sometimes people will create an ILIT in order to remove that life insurance policy from claims of creditors. Why? Because the proceeds are not yours. The trust is not yours, so creditors can't go after the proceeds since they don't belong to you. The second, which is a common use of an ILIT, is going to be to reduce the size of an estate to save on federal estate taxes. So brief reminder, federal estate taxes, that's a tax that the feds collect based upon the size of your estate when you die. Now, there's an exemption amount. That exemption amount in 2017 is $5.49 million. So if you die in 2017 and your estate is not larger than $5.49 million, you don't have a federal estate tax problem. The problem comes in if your estate is larger than $5.49 million because that federal estate tax quickly approaches 40%. 40%. Now, that's a significant problem. Let's say that maybe you're a family farm and you have significant assets inside of your estate that consist of your farmland, but you don't have cash available to pay a federal estate tax when you die. Or maybe a small business owner also doesn't have ready cash available to pay a tax when they die. So what's the idea? The idea is to use the ILIT first as to remove the value of life insurance from your estate. So any insurance that's owned by the ILIT is not considered part of your estate. So example, let's say you have $3 million in assets in your estate, and you have a $3 million life insurance policy. Well, your life insurance is creating a federal estate tax problem. If you didn't have it inside your estate would be less than the $5.49 million, and so there would not be a federal estate tax. So in that case, we might suggest using the ILIT as a tool to remove. You still have the proceeds available for your heirs, but essentially removes the value from your estate, which shrinks the size of your estate below the $5.49 million, so that you're saving on federal estate taxes when you die. So the proceeds of a life insurance policy that you own are going to be included when calculating the size of your estate, but the proceeds from the policy in an ILIT are not considered part of your estate because you don't own it and you don't control it. Therefore, it's not considered part of your estate for federal estate tax purposes. Also, another use in the federal estate tax world might be for that family farm, might be for that business owner, where what they need is liquidity. They need money after they die, or their estate needs money after they die to pay the tax. They can't shrink the size. Let's say you've got a farm, and the farm is worth $7 million in real estate. Well, you don't want to get rid of the land and the farm. You don't want to have a fire sale, if you will, on the land of the farm to pay your tax. So in that case, what you oftentimes will look at doing is buying more life insurance so that you're creating the liquidity to pay the tax after you die. But the problem is if you buy the life insurance in your name, all you've done is you've increased the size of your estate. So the key is to buy the policy in an ILIT. The ILIT can loan the proceeds from the policy to your estate to pay any federal estate tax due. And by doing all of that inside of an ILIT, now you've got the cash available to pay the tax, and you haven't increased the size of your estate by the value of the policy. So it's a liquidity tool that's very oftentimes used for that business owner or perhaps that family farm, so that we can avoid having to sell assets after the time of your death. Now, normally, the ILIT is going to be funded with term insurance. You're not normally going to fund this with whole life or universal life or any of those other permutations of life insurance today. Straight up term insurance is what you will normally fund your ILIT with. Why? Because one day if you decide that you don't need the insurance anymore, keeping in mind that the trust is irrevocable, you simply don't pay the premium anymore. And on a term policy, if you don't pay the premium anymore, then the policy is going to end. And then it won't matter that the ILIT was irrevocable because it's not going to own anything at the time of your death. So normally term insurance is what's going to be used to fund that ILIT. Now, we might look at purchasing a new policy of life insurance, and if you're going to buy a new policy of life insurance, you're going to have the ILIT buy that policy from the outset. And by doing that, that policy was never owned by you, so it was never part of your estate, and so it is going to be excluded from your estate from the very beginning. However, many clients already have existing policies, and what they might want to look at doing is transferring a life insurance policy that they already have into the ILIT. That can be done. Life insurance policies can be transferred. The ownership of a life insurance policy can be transferred. The only problem with that from a tax standpoint is it's not going to do you any good for 5 years. What the feds basically don't want you doing is taking an existing life insurance policy and shortly before you die, removing the life insurance from your estate. So there is a 5-year window, if you will, that we have to be concerned about. However, what we will normally look to is this strategy. If you're going to transfer an existing policy, we're going to have you meet with your life insurance agent, find out, can you buy a new life insurance policy to replace the existing policy? And if you can, then what we're likely going to recommend that you do is have the ILIT buy the new policy, and then you simply cancel the existing policy. So let's say you've got an existing $3 million policy. You can get a new $3 million policy. You're still insurable basically for the same premium. Then in that case, we're going to recommend that the ILIT buys a new $3 million policy, and then you cancel the policy that is in your name, and that way it's going to be out of your estate from the beginning. We don't have to worry about this 5-year period of time. We have to have discussion about who's going to be paying the premium. Normally, you're going to continue to pay the premium. What you're essentially going to do is loan the money to the trustee each year, or you're going to make a gift of the money to the trustee each year, depending upon how we're going to play that out, so that the trustee then has the funds that they can use to pay the premium on the policy. Because again, if the only thing that the ILIT owns is a term insurance policy, there's no cash, obviously, for the trustee to be paying that premium. So the number of important considerations that we have to put into play and have discussion with you about how to make that all happen. So what you really need to do, if you're going to consider having an ILIT, this is not something that you're going to do on your own. It's not something that you're going to do on the internet. You're going to need to work with your attorney, with your CPA, to understand the tax implications for your estate, and obviously your life insurance agent to determine what it takes to transfer an existing policy or what it's going to take to buy a new policy. So it's really going to be a team effort between your attorney, the CPA, the insurance agent, and yourself in putting it all together. Of course, if we can help you to determine if you should have an ILIT as part of your estate plan, including whether you need to keep an ILIT that you already have. We have clients come in. I had a client in just last week who had an ILIT already. It was created a number of years ago when federal estate taxes were different than they are now. It was created at a time when he had a federal estate tax problem, but he no longer has a federal estate tax problem, so he really doesn't need the ILIT anymore. So it might be we need to review whether or not you even need to keep an ILIT that you already have. And if Tuesday with Tom has been brought to you by the estate planning attorneys at Doyle Law PC. To learn how we can help you with your estate plan or with settling a loved one's estate, please call us today at 517-323-7366. That's 517-323-7366.